Hello everyone, and welcome to Fake History. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing the history of Dallas, Texas. I'm your host, It's Not Chris. The reason I chose Dallas as the subject of my first video is because Dallas holds a special place in my heart. I was born in Dallas, Texas, and lived there until I was 6 years old, when my father ended up on the wrong side of a, let's just say, completely legal in all aspects, but otherwise terrifying organization comprised of Italian Americans. We escaped at night before finally settling down in another city in Texas, which shall not be named. Texas history is rich and vast, far too large to go into in a single video, but no other area has a richer history than Dallas. Originally, Dallas was founded by notable Native American chief Diamond Dallas Page in the 16th century. Chief Diamond Dallas Page, or DDP as he prefers to be called, was heading west to California to become a movie star, but tripped over a rock and sprained his ankle. He stayed to nurse himself back to health, and he found the area to be abundant in natural resources. He decided to start building on the land, setting up the first instance of a town in the state. At first, all tribes were welcome, but it was soon fought over between many of the tribes because of its abundant resources. Resources so abundant that to this day, all other major cities in Texas try to claim the overabundance of water Dallas has, just for one example. In 1839, John Nellie Bryan Austin Green came to Dallas to trade with the Native Americans and ended up claiming the land in what is believed to be the first instance of finders keepers, as Dallas had not been called base yet. Even though Dallas had already been named, John Nellie Bryan Austin Green decided to rename Dallas to Dallas, after then Vice President George M. Dallas of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This move was considered controversial to say the least, and baffling to most, as many Texans are not fans of Philadelphia or Pennsylvania as a whole. And to this day, the citizens of Dallas, Texas and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania still clash over it several times a year. Nonetheless, the newly renamed Dallas quickly boomed in the early years as railroads and stage lines quickly entered the city. Immigrants from Belgium, France, Germany, and Switzerland quickly left their comfortable and desirable climates to work in the sweat of your ass crack heat in Texas, all over the promise of a quickly growing city to make a new life for themselves. Troubles, however, were quickly approaching on the horizon as the Civil War loomed ahead. Dallas voted in favor of secession because, as we all know, they wanted to keep their simple way of life and slavery had absolutely nothing to do with it. And so, Texas seceded from the Union, only to regret it once the North won. And for the next several years, they would simply pretend that they never did secede and would simply talk over anyone who suggested otherwise. By 1890, Dallas had electricity, a continental railroad, the first zoo in the entire state, and the first 7-Eleven convenience store in the entire nation. And by the turn of the century, Dallas led the state in drug and liquor markets, paving the way for drunks and drugs abusers for the next 100 years. It also became the center of trade for cotton, a very valuable crop responsible for the douchebag vapors in the near future. In the 1930s, Columbus Marion Dad Joyner, a man of few words and many names, struck oil in Kilgore, Texas, 100 miles east of Dallas. For some reason, Dallas became the financial center for the oil industry in Texas and in Oklahoma, while Kilgore just ended up becoming the city that citizens of Tyler would drive to for alcohol on the weekends before Smith County stopped being a dry county, and also became known as the home of the last drive-in adult movie theater in the entire nation. Dallas, having spent the majority of World War I once again talking over anyone who would speak of war, acted as the manufacturing center of Texas for World War II, in an effort to stop being called yellow-bellied, which was a devastating insult at the time. Jack Kilby of Texas Instruments created a version of the integrated circuit in 1958, proving that Texas wasn't just oil mongers and cowboys. Unfortunately, the circuit was usurped by competing technology developed in Silicon Valley, California, causing the long-lasting hatred Texans experience towards Californians today. Due to this, and desperate to make a name for themselves, Dallas knew that they had to act. And in 1963, the city invited President John F. Kennedy to visit. Unfortunately, California received word of this visit, and sent one of their own, Lee Harvey Oswald, to ruin the plans. Originally, Oswald was meant to just run naked along the motorcade, causing the broadcast to be unusable. Unknowingly to them, however, Oswald was also a double agent for the Russians, and he ended up assassinating the president. Since then, California has attempted to hide their involvement, producing movies with false information to bury their part in the assassination. In the 1980s, Dallas suffered through two economic disasters, the drug boom and a recession. Ironically enough, these are affecting the city again today, causing many members of the millennial and Z generation to give up hope. Many young adults can be found drinking at niche distilleries and vaping on street corners, begging for change. In fact, my shift starts at the end of this video. In present day, Dallas has lived and thrived throughout the decades, growing in popularity and beauty. It's home to sports teams, businesses, real estate, and much more. Dallas is a beautiful city, full of people through all walks of life, open and welcoming to all newcomers. Well, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more fake history videos. And if there's anything you'd like me to cover, please let me know in the comments below.